Welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for the City of Hendersonville. Today is April 8th, 2025. We will start with a prayer and the pledge. Pastor Dylan Young from Long Hollow Church will lead the prayer. Thank you, Pastor Young. Please join us for the pledge.
Thank you. Honored to be here, and thank you guys for the service that you provide for our community. We really appreciate it. Yeah. Let's pray. Jesus, we come tonight humbly asking that you might provide wisdom in this room. And Holy Spirit, I pray that you might fill this room with your presence, that we would all consider each other with every word that we say and thought that we have. And Lord, would you provide the wisdom that everybody in this room needs to lead this city well. And God, we're grateful for the opportunity to care for our friends and neighbors, and ask that you might help us to do that in a spirit of unity, and to truly look for what is best for all people in all situations. And Lord, we pray tonight specifically for Bennett Long. God, I pray that you might protect him, that you would preserve his life. And God, I pray that as his parents care for him who love him so much, would you give them strength and peace? I pray that you would provide people around them who would support them really well and show them what your love looks like and how they care for them and their family. And Lord, I pray tonight as we talk about various topics, Lord, that you would help us to not just seek morality and right living, but that you would help us to seek holiness, and that we would seek your presence, and that we would live for something higher than just morality, but that we would truly seek what you have for each of our lives. Oh, Jesus, we love you. We pray it all in your name. Amen.
Thank you. And again, that's Dylan Young, the young adults pastor for Long Hollow Church. Dylan, we appreciate very much what you do for our community and what your church has done for our community for a long time.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Please now join me for the pledge. Actually, we're going to be led by Scout Pack 75, so they're going to lead us. Y'all go ahead when you're ready.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job, you're done. I appreciate Blaine open up the meeting for us. I appreciate Scout Pack 75 for starting us with the pledge. Thank you, Tamara. Next, we have the acceptance of the agenda. I'm going to entertain a motion that we accept the agenda that was provided in your packets. Alderman Garza, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about an unfinished business, number 4.
Okay. You want to go ahead and make a motion to accept the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second from Alderman Robertson. Alderman Garza, go ahead.
It's an unfinished business, and it's about a shopping cart ordinance we were discussing, and it seems to be a moving target with a lot of loopholes that will need more discussion and more clarity in the future. So I'd like to figure out a way to not do it tonight.
Okay.
It's tabled, so I'm not sure.
Okay, item 4, item 5, or both? It's just 4, I think that is.
Let's go with both, please.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. So when something is tabled, it needs to continue going on the agenda, just to remind y'all that it's tabled. However, I'm pretty sure everybody knows that we tabled it. It's sort of up to y'all. Y'all want me to continue to put it on the agenda, and I could put it down at the very bottom of the agenda, or take it off the agenda and just periodically remind y'all. I don't think anybody really has a proposal right now that is going to get us where we need to be. So that might be the reason that we take it off.
I think so, but that's just me.
Okay. Let's go down to Alderman Evans.
Mayor, I was going to hold off on this one. I'd like to move it off the table, and I'd like to defer it.
Okay.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done on this one, and I, frankly, just based on some of the comments from the chief of police and with some others I've heard, I just don't think that this is an issue that we need to be addressing. Now, there's other more serious issues that we need to be spending our time on, and I'd like it to defer it.
Okay. Okay. So, well, hold on one second. So we have this motion on right now. But do you have a sense of how long you want to defer it or what you want to come out of it?
Well, I was going to also ask that my name be taken off as co-sponsor, because I just don't think it's necessary.
We'll say defer indefinitely, which will put it in the hands of the sponsors then.
Sure.
Okay. So do y'all want to deal with this right now, or wait till we get to the agenda and we can just make a motion to defer indefinitely at that point?
Could do the agenda and defer it, I think.
I thought we were at the agenda.
We are, we wait to get to that item, and deal with it
yeah,
then?
yeah.
That's the easiest way.
Either way, if
Okay.
that's easiest, I'm good with that.
Okay, so they're gonna withdraw their motion. Let's not have a motion yet. Let's wait till we get to that. But I think you've stated your intent, so everybody here sort of has an idea.
Sure,
I think that's
thanks.
helpful. Okay, so we'll leave it the way it is right now. I do need to mention that we need to remove, item 8. There's one appointment there, because we have 2 appointments to make for beautiful Hendersonville. One of them is an at-large appointment, and if we make an appointment for a specific slot, sometimes that gets us in trouble with our at-large appointment. So I would ask that we remove that one until we find an at-large person as well, as that's the Ward 3 spot. I don't think the folks from Ward 3 have a problem with us deferring that for a little while, or removing it from the agenda right now.
That's fine.
Okay, so I'm going to say that Alderman Garza and Alderman Sassy made a motion that we remove item 8A. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. And I want to mention that we have 3 consent items that will be voted on as a group. Would you all like to vote on all the appointments as a group? That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Or do you want to take, okay. We have a motion from Alderman Robertson and a second from Alderman Evans to vote on other agenda items 7, 9, and 10 as a group, as opposed to 11 different motions and 11 different. Gotcha. Okay, Alderman Robertson made a motion. A second from Alderman Dixon. Alderman Evans, go ahead.
I just had, I wanted to talk about those, the committees and the boards. And so at that time, I don't know if it's the appropriate time to talk about it then, but some of my comments may have bearing on whether some might be approved and some might not be.
Okay, we can, when we get to those, if we can have a discussion on it. If we
Sure.
want to pull one out or 2
Sure.
out, we can do that then too.
Okay.
Okay, so right now the motion is to group 7, 9, and 10. We removed item 8. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor of grouping 7, 9, and 8, other agenda items, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. So at this point, we have made 2 changes to the agenda. Do we have any other proposals to change the agenda? Okay. So our changes removed item number 8, and we grouped 7, 9, and 10. Alderman Bergdorf.
Clarification.
Uh-huh.
Did you remove item 8? Or
We-
did you pull it under?
We
under
removed
group?
item 8 entirely.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you then. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Garza, did you have something, or did I just leave your?
Nope.
Okay, sorry about that. Any other conversation or motions on the agenda? All those in favor of approving the agenda as we've amended it twice, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now, Casey, I need your help on something, because I want to recognize some students. And I'll come right down there. We have several students here tonight. We had the scouts here that opened up our meeting, but we also have some other students. These are commended students and National Merit Scholar finalists. I don't think the city has ever recognized students like this. We have several principals here, several teachers, a couple of guidance counselors here. I want to tell you a little bit about them. We have about a dozen students that did that well on their test and have done that well in the course of school, and all these students are from Hendersonville schools. I will recognize Principal Kenny Powell, who is here. Appreciate that. And he has a student, that's Alex Taylor. And Alex, are you here, and your parents? Oh, super. Okay, thanks. So Alex, if you could hang out right here. Thank you so much. Then from JP2, is Jennifer Dye here? Oh, sorry, Jennifer. Aaron, and your parents, are they here? Awesome, we'll come on up here. Thomas Arender, super. Genevieve Strickland, and Lillian Ivanoff, super. That's from JP2. Then for Merrill Hyde, we have Principal Darren Frank here. And the students from Merrill Hyde, Nicholas Brown, super. Alyssa Mattern. Yeah, coming up here if you go, we're going to get a picture. Josiah Vinson Ava Way, James Lewis, Henry Walker Smith, and Duncan Collins. And if those parents are here, if they could just at least wave to us, because this has a lot to do with you as much as it does for the students. And then Hendersonville High School, we have Dr. Sawyer here. Okay. And we also have Anna White. Super. Cade Lamar. Are Cade's parents here? And Liliana Daniel. So, to me, this is awesome that we have this many students in Hendersonville schools that have achieved what they've done, the commended students and National Merit Scholar finalists. This isn't something they earned in the past week or the past month. This is something they've earned over the past several years, not just during the school year, but the summers as well. Several of them are scholar athletes, and several of them hold student government positions in schools as well. It just says a lot about what we've got to offer in our community. And I appreciate y'all very, very much. I appreciate what you've done. And I appreciate the recognition that you bring to Hendersonville. So we're going to take some pictures. Natasha's going to take care of that.
Get the principals involved.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. We're going to get the principals involved.
You gotta scoot this way, center up a little more. They may have to.
I need principals, all of you.
Everybody step this way, some maybe just step this way just a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, everybody look over here.
I think that's awesome. Congratulations. Thank you all so much. We're going to give people a second to leave. Yeah. I've got anything. I've got anything. So we don't have any public hearings. I'm going to entertain a motion. We approve the minutes from our March 25th meeting. We have a motion from Alderman Goodwin and a second from Alderman Garden. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes that were provided to you in your packet, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we have citizen comments. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes per individual, which time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, that's me, not to the alderman, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with differing views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for public office shall not be allowed. Travis Kimmons, Vocal Drive.
Good evening. My name is Travis Kimmons. I reside at 173 Luna Lane. I stand before you this evening as a citizen and an employee of this amazing city. I started in the fire service in 2005 and started here at Hendersonville in 2006. I currently have the honor of serving as a captain at Station 1. As captain, I am responsible for making sure my crew finishes each 24-hour shift and returns safely to their families. I have an amazing crew. I trust them with my life, but I worry about them every day. I worry about their mental and their physical health. You see, it takes a special person to succeed in the fire service. We do more than just fight fire, and that is not understood by all. Yes, we go into burning homes, businesses, cars, and boats in the name of life and property, but we also respond to a multitude of 911 calls in our city. We are expected to operate with high proficiency when it comes to medical, fire, extrication, high-angle rescue, confined space, hazmat incidents, dive rescue, marine firefighting, active shooters, train derailments. The list of situations we might respond to is extensive. When we make these responses, we are exposed to the worst of the worst. We see child abuse, elder abuse. We hear loved ones scream for us to save their family members. We work shootings, stabbings, and perform CPR so many times the calls begin to blur together. We work so many suicides we lose count. We pick up body parts and are exposed to every body fluid you can imagine. We pull burnt bodies from house fires, drowning victims from the lake. I myself have been eating dinner when someone burst into my station and shoved a pulseless infant into my arms. We tell mothers and fathers their child just died. Firefighting takes a great physical toll on the body, but the mental toll from the trauma we see is tremendous. We have buried our brothers and sisters that took their life due to PTSD. We have buried those that succumbed to cancer. In 2023, 72% of firefighter line of duty deaths were from occupational cancer. Many of us ponder if we ourselves will make it 30 years before our mind or bodies give out. As first responders, we are all subject to these mental and physical stressors. And here's the big takeaway. After every life-altering, mind-numbing call I have been on, my brothers and sisters in blue have been right beside me. And after the worst calls, we are brought together behind closed doors with professionals for a critical incident stress debriefing. EMS, fire, police, all involved. Because we are a united team. Because we are a united team, we receive this crucial help together. Now, please hear this next sentence. Relied on the same, but compensated differently. To say that one profession is harder or incurs more risk than the other is absolutely false. It's divisive, demoralizing, and dangerous, and most importantly, it adversely affects the citizens of this community in regards to public safety, because it will continue to push decades of experience out the door. HFD has also been experiencing retention and recruitment issues for a number of years now, and it's not getting any better. I love my job, and I love helping people, but I'm tired. In fact, I'm exhausted. I have worked 2 and sometimes 3 jobs for over a decade to support my family. And in recent weeks, we have been told that our 48-hour recovery period after our 24-hour shift is an opportunity for us to work secondary employment. The running joke at my house is that when I can finally quit my side jobs and have 2 days off with my family, I will be retired. We as a department appreciate equipment, fire stations, and training. Those things help us to serve the community better and are a necessary cost of doing business, but those are not compensation and benefits. They do not help us to take care of our families. Mayor Clary, after one of the worst calls of my career, you showed up at my station to check on us. That meant the world to me. It might not have seemed like it at the time because I was in shock, but I want you to know how much I appreciated that. We are asking now for everyone to show up for us because we need the help. Please stand with us and vote to increase our pay, evaluate the benefits of the bridge, and look at adjusting the steps in our pay scale. Thank you.
Travis, thank you. Next person is a person whose name I didn't really know had a first name. I know him as Chief. It's Chief Steele.
Mayor Clary, Board of Mayor Aldermen, it's an honor to be here in front of y'all again. Somewhat. 11 years ago when I retired. And I cannot tell you how proud that I was of the 39 years that I spent serving this city. Cannot tell you how proud I am of this board, these mayors on that wall that have served 6 generations of Steeles to call Sumner County and Hendersonville home. Cannot begin to tell you how I know how challenging each one of your jobs are. But let me tell you a little bit about why I'm here tonight. As I said, I retired 11 years ago. I still teach, I still go around and I still see the fire trucks, I still follow, but I'm not the chief anymore. You got a fine chief back there. I watched him from a boy up. You've got a great department. I have never questioned this board or this mayor's or any of the mayors after I retired. Now, pretty obvious when I was chief, yeah, there was a lot of times I stood up here and I fought all I could for the citizens and for my men and women of the Hendersonville Fire Department. Tonight, what I would like to say is this, very simple. In 1975, when I started on the Hendersonville Fire Department, proud, this was going to be a career, loved it. Had friends that went to Nashville, friends that went to bigger departments, but this was my home. When I started it, one of the things that was immediate to me was the difference in pay between my brothers on the police department, which I have a lot of great friends, all the chiefs are good friends, great friends of mine. But I noticed the difference of a firefighter's excuse me, salary and a police officer's. Walter Toon was chief back then, and I would talk to him at the old station, Saunders Ferry. I'd say, Chief, why? Why are your guys making so much more? He put it simple, and this pains me to say it. My brothers, especially way back when I was chief, really pained me to say it in front of them, but it was a fact. Firemen were not held to the standard as law enforcement in the state of Tennessee. We were not. We were not. We did not jump as high as our brothers in blue. That was from 75 through the 80s. In the 90s, we started addressing that. I served on the governor's board on firefighting certifications. I watched every city in this great state, Memphis, Knoxville, all the big cities, struggle to get what we had in Hendersonville. And that was a recognition of state certification. When my brother firefighters challenged the journeyman firefighters, they put their training, they put their education, everything on the line, the cognitive parts, the skills part, to match firefighters all across the state of Tennessee and the nation. We addressed that in the 90s. 2000, we took off with certifications. We matched basically everything that our brothers in blue. I've sit on countless committees at the legislature. I have sit on everything you can do about the bridge representing the fire service. And I know what I'm talking about. The standard for the police department is unbelievable. Law enforcement has so much accreditations that they hold their people to. We do too. Starting in 2000 and finally, after 30 years, recognized in 2004 that I could go back to my men. We were being recognized for all the hard work, all the certification, and we had parity with our brothers in blue. Finally. We didn't stop there. We raised the bar, which they still have now, educational attainments. The things with my firefighters, our firefighters, a fire captain, parity with a police sergeant because their job descriptions were professionally reviewed. Their job descriptions were set in front of this board. Cannot tell you how many hundreds of hours of making sure that we jumped just as high as the boys in blue. And we did. Never worried about it. From there, we've done great things in our department. Through the help of this board, the mayors, and the citizens of Hendersonville, Hendersonville Fire Department is one of the top fire departments in the Southeast. I'm not just sitting up here as an employee, as an old firefighter, telling you that. I know the respect that we got. But I'm going to tell you this. The greatest respect that we got from our brothers and sisters in the trenches was that we were able to say we have parity with the boys and girls in blue.
Chief, 30 seconds.
And when we had that, the pride of this department was unbelievable. Please, listen to them. All the arguments, you sleep, all that, I'll address any of them. Your fire department will address those. It's ridiculous. The badge we wear, the badge the boys in blue wear, are equal because we serve. We're servants of the Lord. We're servants of our citizens, and please recognize that.
Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you so much for your time.
Next, we got Matthew Johnson, Bonita Parkway.
Good evening, Mayor, Aldermen, and members of the community. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Matt Johnson. I reside at 179 Bonita Parkway, 1 out of every 3 days. I'm a proud member of the Hendersonville Fire Department, and tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the Firefighters Association. I want to begin by acknowledging the incredible progress our city has made. Hendersonville is in a strong financial position. Through responsible fiscal management and sound economic decisions, we have built a city that is thriving. One great example of this is the apparatus replacement program, which has been successfully funded through the PIP fund, a testament to the impact of the sales tax increase our citizens voted for and the economic stimulus it has generated. These initiatives have helped ensure our city's essential services remain strong and well equipped to serve our residents. However, while we see this success in infrastructure investment, there is another critical issue that needs our attention: our city employees. As our city continues to grow, so do the demands placed on our public servants. The hardworking men and women of the fire department, police department, roads and parks department, as well as other city divisions, have been asked to do more with fewer resources. This is not a sustainable path forward. This board has addressed the needs of the police department at the mid-year budget, which we fully support. But now we must also take a closer look at all city employee salaries. Our dedicated first responders, city workers, and public servants deserve to be fairly compensated for their commitment and service. Competitive wages are not just about retention, they're about recognition, respect, and sustaining the high level of service that our residents have come to expect and deserve. Beyond salaries, there are other opportunities to enhance benefits that would improve the well-being of our employees and make our city an even more attractive place to work. We would like to thank the board for passing the resolution to study the TCRS Bridge program. This retirement option would provide meaningful support to the first responders and their families who dedicate their lives to keeping Hendersonville safe. When we invest in our workforce, we invest in the future success of our city. Hendersonville is in an enviable position. We have economic stability, a growing community, and a bright future ahead. But that future is only possible if we recognize and support the hardworking individuals who make it all happen. With your continued leadership and commitment to this great city, I am confident that we can make the necessary adjustments to ensure that our employees are treated fairly and that Hendersonville remains a place where people want to work, live, and thrive. Thank you for your time and consideration, and thank you for your dedication to making Hendersonville the best it can be.
Matthew, thank you. Ryan Chandler, 1166 Forest Retreat Drive.
Good evening, members of board, mayor, and aldermen. My name is Ryan Chandler. I live at 1166 Forest Retreat Road. I live and I work there. I'm a firefighter at House 5 and a proud member of the local 3460. I've dedicated nearly 11 years to the fire service, almost 6 with Hendersonville and 5 with Gallatin. My decision to join Hendersonville was driven by the opportunity for better pay, benefits, and the chance to learn from seasoned firefighters. My experience at Gallatin was concerning. During my last 3 years there, I witnessed a significant exodus. I was the 46th person to leave. Staffing shortages were severe, making vacation time nearly impossible. We were constantly training new, inexperienced firefighters, and our training had to be reduced to the basic levels. I recall a time when a full truck crew, more your experienced firefighters, had 4 people on it, and we had 13 years of combined experience. It was a serious safety concern for me. Morale was at an all-time low. I came to Hendersonville seeking stability, growth, mentorship, and a pay increase. Tonight, my focus is on the pressing issue of turnover, retention, and compensation within the Hendersonville Fire Department. We're currently facing significant staffing changes. We're down 4 positions with those personnel currently at the Fire Academy. Additionally, we have 7 firefighters with less than a year's experience. We're anticipating 2 retirements in the coming months. 3 individuals are currently or soon will be on FMLA, and another is on disability. We recently welcomed back 1 member from a year-long military deployment. Over the past 4 years, 15 positions have been created. Station 7 open accounted for 12, and the addition of the battalion chiefs added 3, none of which have been backfilled. While we are grateful for the opportunity to apply for the SAFER grant and try and get 9 people in here, it is crucial to understand the full scope of our staffing deficit. Currently, we have 32 firefighters off the road. That's 22% of our department. Let me reiterate, we have 32 firefighters off the road. Retention is a crucial concern. In the last 6 years, we've lost 41 employees, and retirement numbers are declining. Recruitment numbers are declining. Alarmingly, 14 employees left within their first 3 years of employment, resulting in a loss of training investment and further staffing gaps. These staffing issues place immense pressure on our department, which operates 24/7. It leads to difficulty in obtaining vacation leave, increased overtime demands, and a constant cycle of new training personnel. The impacts not only affect firefighters on the front lines, but also our chiefs and administrators, significantly affecting morale. In May of 2023, decisions highlighted by the mayor's desire for Hendersonville city employees' salaries to reach the 75th percentile. However, current data shows our fire department salaries are lagging behind comparable agencies by double-digit percentages. This disparity further erodes morale. We appreciate the city's fiscal improvement, strong reserves, and the PIP fund. However, when we ask when the movement towards the 75th percentile will begin for all city departments, including the fire department. I love working for Hendersonville Fire. It's a wonderful city known for its low taxes, safe streets, and the peace of mind that comes with robust public safety provided by both PD and fire. I urge you to address the turnover rates, retention issues, and compensation for our firefighters. This is not just a concern, it is an emergency. Thank you for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you. Next we have Greg Yandell of Glenlevin Way.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Greg Yandell. I'm at 110 Glenlevin Way. I'm a Hendersonville resident, the owner of Hendersonville Ace Hardware, and a board member of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to express my support this evening for the ordinance addressing long-term vacancy in abandoned commercial and industrial buildings in our city. While the language of this ordinance might not be the final version, and I suspect it will go through a lot of changes from where it is tonight, the spirit of the ordinance is greatly needed for our city. As someone who lives and works here every day, I've seen how these neglected properties affect our community. Buildings like the large glass structure on West Main and the Big Play building, which has sat in disrepair since the tornado over 16 months ago, are visible reminders of disinvestment in our city. They pose safety risk, pull down property values, and weaken the appeal of nearby businesses. Now, I can understand some may have concerns about how long it might take to lease a vacant building, especially in certain situations. And I think the ordinance language should certainly reflect that concern by allowing an appropriate amount of time for a property owner to find a suitable tenant. But at some point in time, a vacant building may no longer be actively offered to the commercial market for various reasons, which ultimately harms the city and prevents the property from being used for its intended and approved purpose. Hendersonville is not a stagnant market. We have limited commercial space, and people are continually moving here for the lifestyle, schools, and job opportunities. So that leads to strong demand. And when a building sits empty for years, it's rarely due to the lack of interest in that building. It's often due to the lack of active engagement from the owner. And as we know, so many times the owners don't necessarily live in our community, so they don't see those buildings day in and day out like we do as we drive by them. While I respect investment strategies, also, a long-term buy and hold approach that leaves a building vacant for years doesn't serve the broader needs of our community either. It removes opportunities for local businesses, limits job creation, and prevents the property from filling its approved purpose as an active part of our commercial landscape. In addition, these long-term vacancies reduce the economic value of surrounding areas, lower the tax revenue potential for the city, and also create a visual blight that disencourages future investment in that area. Over time, this leads to a ripple effect: fewer new businesses, stagnant property values, and a diminished neighborhood vitality in the areas where those businesses are held vacant. The spirit of this ordinance isn't to punish property owners, which I think that needs to be really stated. It's to encourage stewardship. It's to encourage every commercial property in our city contributes positively to Hendersonville's growth, appearance, and our economy. In addition to this ordinance, gives the city a framework that allows for a clear view of which properties have been vacant over a long term, enabling better tracking and more proactive engagement from the city to the business owner to address these issues before they become insurmountable. This framework will help us stay ahead of potential problems and ensure that our limited commercial space is utilized efficiently. Cities like Indianapolis, Cleveland, and St. Louis have been successful with similar ordinances. They've improved safety, increased property values, and sparked renewed interest and investment in those areas. Thank you for your time and your continued commitment to the future of Hendersonville. Thank you for this time to speak.
Thank you, Greg. John Taylor, Daniel Smith Drive.
Mayor, Alderman. My name's John Taylor. I live at 110 Daniel Smith Drive, and we've lived there for 34 years. First time I've ever been to a meeting, so I'm kind of ashamed to say that, but I didn't make all the votes. I'm hoping I'm not getting in front of something, but there was some recent work done on my property for the drainage issues. And so I'm not sure if they're completely done or not, but I just want to make sure that there are some concerns that I had about what's been done or what will continue to be done to ameliorate some of the issues. There's some safety issues I'm concerned about. There's a head wall that's dismantled and it's coming down. I had, I don't know, get in this, sod work put down, that's gone, so I don't know what they're gonna do to try to help ameliorate, some of the areas. There was underground fencing for my mower. They said they're gonna fix that. The contractor said they're gonna fix that, so I don't know if they'll be able to fix it in such a way that I'll actually be able to utilize the investment of my mower. So, and then access to the neighbors. We can't get from one yard to the other now. And so just want to maybe get somebody to look at some of this stuff, And I say maybe they're not done. I don't know. I surely would invite somebody to come and look at there. I've got photos on my phone. We had this tremendous rain here the last few days, and there's a lot of washed out stuff, so maybe they're not done. Anyway, just glad to be here for 34 years. Had 3 kids raised here, and I didn't do as good a job as Greg over here, so my buddy, so thanks much.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I don't have answers to your question right now, but I'll follow up with you. I've got your address here, and we'll do our best to get with you and figure things out. Keith Denon, Saranac Trail.
Good evening. My name is Keith Denon. I have resided in Hendersonville for 36 years. Much to my amazement, I just calculated it. I live at 135 Saranac Trail. I am here today because I had the opportunity to review item 6 on your agenda, which is Ordinance 2025-08. When I initially reviewed it, I need to back up and say I'm an attorney. I engage in the practice of real estate law, among other things. Initially, when I reviewed it, my initial reaction is there are lots of problems with this ordinance. Then I was told that this was based upon a similar ordinance drafted and adopted in Jackson, Tennessee. As a result of that, I reviewed the Jackson ordinance and discovered that the reason this Jackson ordinance is in existence is because it's part of a central business improvement district. We do not have one in Hendersonville, Tennessee currently, although the West Main corridor satisfies the requirements for a central business improvement district. Downtown Jackson is the area to which this, the Jackson ordinance applies, and to be quite blunt, it is a slum area. I don't believe we have slums in Hendersonville, and I don't even consider the West Main Street a blighted area, but that is not a requirement for establishment of a central business improvement district. So I would suggest to the board that I share Mr. Yandel's concerns. Greg is a friend. Greg employed my stepson, and as a result of Greg, my stepson is in Key West right now. He's in the United States Coast Guard. And so therefore, Greg has meant a lot to our family. I was president of the Hendersonville Area Chamber of Commerce in 1999 to 2000. I have always been concerned about Hendersonville. So with that, I would make that suggestion. The other suggestion I would make is there's no provision for implementation in the form of notice to the owners who are affected. If this was a central business improvement district, you would provide notice to all the affected owners. I personally, and I will defer to the city attorney on whether or not notice is required, but I find that a lot of ordinances, in fact, people don't know about them. In fact, much to my surprise, I actually sent Mr. Ray this ordinance today. The city of Hendersonville has got an ordinance. It's ordinance number 11-101, which states no minor under 21 years of age shall loiter in or around, work in, or otherwise frequent any place where beer is sold for on-premises consumption. I have been at Cracker Barrel and seen minors and beer being sold. Sanders Ferry Pizza, pretty much any restaurant in this town that sells beer has minors there. So obviously this ordinance, by the way, was adopted in 1970. So I assume that is a classic example of ordinances that the people do not know exist. To me, if you receive notice, if you receive an opportunity to comply, that's a fundamental part of due process in the United States. I don't have a problem with the ordinance. As I said, I do hope that the board will consider providing appropriate notice to the last address that's easily obtained from the tax assessor's office, and in that way informing people of their obligation to comply.
Keith, 30 seconds.
With that, I want to thank you. I want to tell you that I was so amazed at the students who were up here a few minutes ago, both the Boy Scouts and the National Merit finalists, and you all. Thank you for doing your job, and thank you for recognizing those young people.
Keith, thank you. David Lucky, Clarendon Place.
David Lucky, Clarendon Place. I've been in Hendersonville my whole life. Been good friends with Greg for many, many years. We were neighbors for I don't know, almost 10 years, I guess, when he first moved to Hendersonville. I'm here before you to talk about this 25-08 ordinance, primarily because I have several commercial buildings in the city of Hendersonville. Fortunately for me, all of mine are leased. And I recognize that this is trying to fix a problem with a few bad actors. I sent the board and the mayor a email on Friday trying to address some of my concerns. And I'll be brief. I'm not going to go back through all of them, but, you know, to Keith Dennin's point and to several things that Greg said, I mean, there's the bad actors and something needs to be done. I would recommend trying to tack the remedies that are in the current ordinance onto the current codes ordinance or ordinances and try and handle it that way rather than creating a whole nother piece of something that a commercial property owner has to deal with. You know, Mr. Denon, he had a point. You don't know about it. It's hard to address it. Commercial real estate agents are not going to know about it, and they're not going to address it. That's one of the things in the ordinance. Title attorneys, they might or might not know about it. They're not going to address it. I would make the recommendation that you tack it on the enforcement actions for the few bad actors onto the current ordinance that you have, if possible. The second thing is there's a big difference between a vacant building and an abandoned building. I'll give you an example. There, next to the old Walmart, 387 East Main, there was a Jack in the Box for years. Had a 15-year lease. 13 of those years, it was vacant but not abandoned. When the lease ran out, we acquired the property and we released it to a viable tenant. But the property was leased. It was vacant because the Jack in the Box shut down. Now, there's other examples of that in town currently today. So I would caution you, take the vacancy restrictions off of this ordinance, at least the 50% benchmark, and go with an abandonment type language. I think that would be a cleaner way to address the needs or to motivate the few people that really need to be motivated. So I mentioned the authorized agent. I mentioned the real estate agents and the title agents. All of this in my missive on Friday. I do recognize the need to clean up West Main, but I would also make mention that there are occupied buildings on West Main that could probably do with some deferred maintenance as well. And so this ordinance doesn't address that, and I don't know that any ordinance that would be put in place today could address that. That being said, I did some research on where this type of ordinance came from, and based upon what my counsels told me and what I read, this abandonment and vacancy originated in San Francisco, went to Detroit, Austin, Texas. I don't know that the city of Hendersonville wants to model its, municipal ordinances after San Francisco or Detroit, but I do recognize the need for some improvements on some of these properties that have been abandoned. Thank you.
David, thank you. Cody Sharman, Albine Circle.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to tell you my story of here in Hendersonville. I'm a U.S. Marine. I was stationed here in 2014. I was recruiting out of Madison. I was living in Hendersonville across from the high school. Just coming home from work one night, I was in a horrific motorcycle accident. Due to the expertise and skills of the firefighters from that station, they saved my life. I was almost cut in half in that accident. My helmet flew off, and their actions that night saved my life. I'm walking around doing all of that because of what they did that evening. I just want to put a face on the skill and the things they do because it affects the community. I'm here. I own a home in Gallatin now just for the sacrifice and what they've done for me. I just want to put a face on everything that they do and the skill that they have. Thank you for your time.
Cody, thank you so much. Next, we have our consent agenda, and those three items there need to be voted on as a group since they're under the consent agenda. However, if one of you all would like to pull one of those out, you're welcome to do it this time. Alderman Evans.
Mayor, I just wanted to point out something, unless it has been corrected, on item 7.2, the second reading of the ordinance 2025-4. The amendment section reads, it should read 12-202 rather than 12-102.
Alderman Evans, help us out again. City Attorney is following.
On page 34.
Page 34, okay. Is this something that is considered clerical that we can fix, or? Oh, hold on, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you for bringing that up. That would be clerical because it's just at the top as the contents, but the actual code, as I see it, is correct. Is that right? Is that what you're referring to? The content part of it at the top? Yeah.
Section where it says 12-102 should be 12-202.
Yeah, we can correct that. Thank you.
Do we need to have an amendment, or is that something since, okay. Appreciate that, Alderman Evans. So I need a motion to approve these three items, and then I need a second, please. We have a motion from Alderman Garza, a second from Alderman Goodwin. Any discussion on these three items? All those in favor of, I'm sorry, I need to read the second reading of ordinance 2025-03, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 7 to adopt a revised edition of International Fire Code. Second reading of ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 12 to adopt a revised edition of the Building and Maintenance Codes. Second reading of ordinance 2025-05, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 13 to adopt a revised edition of International Property Maintenance Code. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have the two items we have for unfinished business. Alderman Evans, I think you asked to have your name removed from both of them, or just the first one? Just the first one. Okay, without objection, we're going to do that. Okay. Now what I would entertain is a motion to bring these off the table and to defer them indefinitely. What that will allow is that the two sponsors on the top one and the three sponsors below, that they could return those at any time. However, being one of those sponsors, I don't see myself returning it until I see some action from the board that says they're likely to favor this. And I think that message is pretty clear. So does somebody want to make a motion to take these off the table and defer them indefinitely? Alderman Collins makes a motion, and a second from Alderman Robertson. Any discussion on that?
I do want to point out on both of those in our in the notes on page 67, this one, and then also page 74 on the second one. They did not pass on the first reading. These were tabled. It says in the notes that it was passed on first reading.
Okay, we need to definitely fix that. Okay. Any other discussion? So our motion is to bring this off the table and then to defer them indefinitely. Alderman Evans, who made the motion? Alderman Collins? Let's do the first one since we didn't vote to group them. So item number 4. We'll do item number 4 first. Is that okay, Alderman Collins? And then we'll come down. Okay, and our second came from Alderman Evans. Okay. All those in favor of removing from the table item 4 and deferring that indefinitely, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Alderman Collins?
5.
We have a motion, a second for item number 5, and that is to remove it from the table and to defer it indefinitely. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes as well. Collins and Evans. On both of them. Yep. I'm sorry, Alderman Robertson, did you make a motion on the first one?
No.
No. Collins and Evans, Collins and Evans.
Evans.
Okay. Now we're on second reading of ordinance 2025-08. This is an ordinance to amend the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 12, Building, Utility, etc. codes relative to the registration of vacant commercial and industrial buildings. We have a motion. We have a motion from Alderman Martin and a second from Alderman Ward. Alderman Ward, I'm going to come to you first, but I want to mention a couple things first. So what you have in your packet includes the amendment that we made 2 weeks ago, which changed a couple items. So I want you to follow along here. Let's go to, I'm right about that, am I correct?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, So if you go to page 77,
Don's idea, but I made the motion, he didn't.
and then, I'm sorry, what you have in your packet does not reflect the changes we made 2 weeks ago. Page 77, where it says Chapter 13, the amendment that we had 2 weeks ago changed that to Chapter 15. Okay? And then if you go to page 83, and we're at paragraph 3, that now reads after it was amended, the initial registration fee will be waived for 12 months. Those are the changes that we made 2 weeks ago. So those have been approved by the board. What Lance sent you out today were a combination of Alderman Evans' suggestion and Alderman Ward's suggestion. And does everybody have those with them?
No?
Okay.
Did somebody give us a printed copy?
Can you do that? Okay, so we'll get those in just a second, but I'll tell you, they will take a little bit of discussion to get through. What I'm hoping that we'll do tonight, and I have a suggested change as well. What I'm hoping that we'll do tonight is we'll make some changes that we feel will make this better, not necessarily strengthen it, but make it better. And I think Alderman Ward has some good ones. I think Alderman Evans has 1 or 2 good ones. I've got something that I want to bring up based on the email that we received from Mr. Lucky on Friday, and Alderman Robertson has some as well. I do anticipate there will be a motion to defer this for some time. I have no problem with that, but I would hope that we could get through some discussion and make some changes that would be beneficial, and that will help us along the way. Did Jesse get those? Yeah. Okay. So Alderman Ward.
I would like to be added as a sponsor on this ordinance.
Okay. Without objection, we'll do that. Go ahead.
I think the ordinance, at this point, I'll say the ordinance needs more work.
Okay.
And I agree with a lot of the things, the citizens' comments.
Okay.
So that needs to be discussed or given more time to study.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the changes that Lance put together and he sent out, and sort of where those came from, or what your rationale was? There are several.
Well, there's several notes, and there's a lot of rationale.
Okay.
But I agree with what Mr. Lucky was saying. That's when we made that initial change. If it should have 12 months to lease the property. There were some other things about registering and putting up placards stating the building's safe and stuff like that that we took out that I didn't think were necessary. But I still feel like it needs extra work, particularly when it deals with definitions versus vacancy and abandonment.
Okay. Appreciate that. Alderman Evans, do you want to talk about the change you suggest, or should we go to Alderman Robertson?
Sure, I'll just kind of briefly mention some of the things that I've found and had questions about, and Attorney Ray did mention these in here. In the first whereas, it says within a defined area of the city. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, we need to define what that area of the city is. I still am concerned about that. I kind of follow what Keith Denon was sharing about, the Westlake development area. And if I think in my mind, we need to be thinking about, okay, well, what's going to get us further down the road with this, and not affect those people who are trying to take care of their property. We do have a few bad apples, if you will, and I want to address that. I agree with Alderman Ward that we do need to have a definition as far as there is a difference between abandonment and vacant. And Mayor and I were at a ribbon cutting today for one of the warehouses on Freehill, and that warehouse sat empty for 2 years. It was vacant, but they were taking care of it. And there is a difference between and I think with warehouses and those kind of things, it's difficult to just turn those around and have someone in those buildings as quickly as we would like. I did have a question on the authorized agent. I wondered why we would put that in, that has to reside within the Sumner County, Tennessee. It's been taken out. I think we probably still need to look at that. My concern was if we just limit that to the Sumner County of Tennessee, we're just across the border from Madison and from Davidson County and Robertson County. Why couldn't an agent, a person, be an authorized agent from those counties? So I want to be careful, make sure that be very clear there. Were some other areas I had. I do agree also that we need to make it longer than 60 days. And I understand, for the most part, the spirit in which what we're trying to do here, but I'm wondering, do we not already have ordinances or things in place with the city that can address this or address these issues and maybe add to that without having to have a whole new ordinance that we have to follow? That's all.
So, Alderman members, I was following your 3 changes and, 3 suggestions. So, I think if I'm correct, if everybody goes to page, let's see, goes to page 77, about 3 lines down in the smaller print, first full paragraph, I think you're asking to cross through a defined area of.
And that was in the email that Attorney Ray sent this afternoon.
And then if you go on the next page, in paragraph 1, it says authorized agent, a person crossing out that resides within Sumner County, Tennessee. Okay? Then if you go 2 pages from there, where it says 12-1505, instead of 60 days, 60, parentheses, 60 parentheses, days, change that to 1 year. Are those the 3 changes that would cover the comments you just made? Oh, hold on here. Go ahead. Hold on just a second. There we go. Now we're good.
It does, but I think if everyone will look at the one that the attorney sent, it has more than just those. Those were just some of the comments that I had. Because there's even some additional comments that we made on 12-1505B, 1, 2, and 6.
Okay.
And 7.
So when we get those copies,
Yes.
we will make sure to point those out. Alderman Robertson, you had something. Do you want me to go to you? Alderman Sassy, what's the best thing to do? Okay.
Yeah, and I've got a couple questions for our city attorney. It's important to me that we have proper statutory authorization for this new chapter. And so I wanted to ask our city attorney.
Alderman Robertson, hold on 1 second. He just stepped out.
Oh.
Well, hold on. I'm sorry. Alderman Evans.
Smart lawyer.
Alderman Evans, you had a question that might be best handled by our planning director about authorizations we currently have. Keith, can you help us out? This might also be, it's probably you. Okay. Sorry about that, Alderman Evans.
I'm not sure I'm following what you're.
So you had some questions about what authorizations do we currently have in.
Oh, what we already, okay,
Right.
yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
What ordinances might already be out there that might address a lot of these issues?
I think some of these, because mostly it's about, it's kind of vacant buildings that are just kind of unkept and unsightly, and I think that's sort of what the target of this is. We do have our International Property Maintenance Code, which I think we just readopted or did an amendment to that, and that's enforced through our Property Maintenance Code enforcement out of the police department. So we do have that as a way to tackle buildings, especially if they are in disrepair. And so we do have that on the books.
Keith, do we have anything that would allow us, when we have a vacant building that doesn't violate a zoning or codes issue? We have a vacant building that has really just become an eyesore and that has become a drag on our resources, such as it's inviting homeless folks, it's inviting parking, it's inviting, and obviously we would go out and deal with this. It's inviting parking uses that aren't that aren't allowed there. Do we have anything that would address constant vandalism that we could use right now, or do we need something more?
Nothing could address those things, but could address them after the fact. So if there was vandalism and then it degraded the exterior of the building, then the city could send notice to the owner, and if they didn't correct it, then it could end up in a citation. So that is, and then you could, keep kind of hammering away with that. So that's about the limit of what it would be. There's nothing, if it's a vacant building and there's nothing from a code standpoint, whether associated with the building itself or the site or a zoning or use, then there really wouldn't be much that we could do with that.
Okay. Anything else, Alderman Evans?
I'd like to just, at least for now, until we decide what we're going to do with this, amend to reflect these changes in yellow that have been presented to us.
Okay. So those reflect your changes as well as Alderman Ward's changes. Are y'all okay with the changes that each of you made? Yes. Okay. So, so we've got a motion to accept the changes you see in yellow and the copies that were just handed out to you. So let's address those first, please. Alderman Robertson, I'll come back to you with your changes in a few minutes.
Yeah, I have no comments on the motion.
Okay, so I'll come back to you. Alderman Sassy.
Thank you, Mayor. So on the second page of the, excuse me, of the ordinance, in that authorized agent section where the offer is to remove that resides within Sumner County, Tennessee, I think that's opening us up to too wide of an area. I would want to limit this somehow. Maybe we could have that resides in Tennessee, or someone that lives or resides within a 50-mile radius or something like that. So I'm open to suggestions on that, but that's how I'm feeling on that. So if we wanted to change the motion, I don't know what the best course of action to do that would be. But that there's that piece I had a suggestion on. Sorry. And then also on the, let's see, fourth page, under 12-1505 registration, and then you have B and those two bullet points, 1 and 2, it mentions for the name, address, and phone number and email address of the owner or person in control, and for owner's authorized agent for purpose of service and process. And then 2 says the name, address, telephone number, and email address of the authorized agent. So aren't those the same thing? I don't think, the way I'm reading it, we wouldn't need that authorized agent in there twice. Maybe the first line is the owner of the property, and then the second line is the authorized agent, is my thinking. So that's my suggestions on the offered amendment.
Do either of y'all want to address that, or you can certainly make a motion to the amendment, or we can come back to Alderman Sassy. Alderman Ward, Alderman Evans, do either one of y'all want to address that? So item 2, it's the authorized agent of a person responsible for day-to-day supervision and management of the building or structure. Item 1 is a person in control for the owner's authorized agent for the purpose of service or process. That might be the same person, but very often that could be 2 different people. I think both of them are worthwhile there. Alderman Evans, Alderman Ward, does that make sense?
I prefer to leave it the way it is.
Okay.
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 And what about that first part, the 12-1501-1?
So I was going to make a proposal later on, but it might help with this one. So if you look, authorized agent, currently what the board passed a couple weeks ago says a person that resides within Sumner County, Tennessee. The amendment that we have right now crosses out that resides within Sumner County, Tennessee, and then goes on, who shall be authorized in writing by the owner or person in control of a vacant commercial or industrial building to be responsible for the security and maintenance of the building and property, who shall have access to the building and property, and who shall be available. These are where my changes come in. Who shall be available during business hours and during non-business hours in the case that emergency occurs requiring immediate response and or to make repairs within 48 hours. It says it doesn't really matter where they are, but they've got to make sure they can be there for emergencies or non-emergencies within 48 hours. I hope that addresses that.
Well, in that case, maybe we should add on premises, because being available could be by phone call. It doesn't really specify that.
Ooh, so they would have to be on premises during business hours?
No, that they would be available to be on premises within a certain amount of time even. I think it's too vague as it is right now.
Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we come back to that? Because I think we might be able to work something out. And we can approve this amendment and then come back and change the text that we already changed. That's okay. So right now, what we're dealing with is the amendment that was given to you that had the yellow highlighted, that was just passed out a little while ago and was emailed to you earlier. Alderman Sassy, don't let me forget to come back about my change that, with the help of Mr. Lucky from earlier. Alderman Bergdorf.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate this opportunity to discuss this, and I appreciate the opportunity for the stakeholders to come up and let their concerns be known. One of the pieces of this new version of the ordinance is regarding vacant under 12-1502 purpose. And we've addressed vacant a couple of times, and I think one of the stakeholders noted the significant difference between abandoned and vacant. I think we need to address that before we move any further to get our terms correct. Does the law director or Mr. Free have any suggestions regarding that?
It's a tricky thing on whether it's vacant or not, and then on the enforcement of it, that's when it really gets tricky, because more than likely, any building we're kind of coming down on something like this about, they're not going to give us access inside of the building, so it's going to be, you know, a little bit difficult. Probably on adjusted language, what would be good is clearly defining vacancy as vacant, you know, also being that there is no active certificate of occupancy for that building or approved use in occupancy for that building. That way, because otherwise, if we don't, then, I mean, what's going to happen is, you know, first we've got to start a time clock on when that year is happening. So we're going to have to be able to justify when that year started, and then after that, then let them know, hey, this has been vacant for more than a year. And then once we make them aware of that, if we don't tie it to something where they've got an approved use in it, then what can basically happen is they could just occupy it or do something, you know, even if it's just over the weekend. And then all of a sudden, now maybe it's just started the clock over. And they've got another year before, you know, they would have to register. So that'd be a possible loophole to kind of tighten that up a little bit.
And all this we're talking about is civil. It's not criminal. It's all just civil court. Yeah,
that's correct.
And that can take, you know, if you go into court, then it's going to cost everybody money. I just don't know that I could support it at this point. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Alderman Bergdorf. Alderman Martin on the amendment? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I just had a question on the removal of a lighting plan for the exterior of the building and a regular maintenance plan. I wanted to hear what the proposer's rationale was on that.
Okay, so that's going to where it says section 12-1507. Alderman Ward, I think this was from your suggestions. Under 2, secured structure, C and B. The first one is about lighting, and the second one is about regular maintenance. You have no obligation to answer it, but you're probably the best one to do it.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, as I told the city attorney, my lighting plan would be change to the bulb when it goes out. And if I have to write that down and give it to the city, it's a waste of time.
So what this is doing by deleting it is taking away lighting on the exterior of the building. And if it's abandoned or vacant, it could be a safety issue, public safety issue.
I would agree with that, but a lighting plan is I'm going to change the bulb when it goes out.
Alderman Martin, maybe we come back to this and that we require that it be illuminated, or maybe we could throw something in there so it's not doesn't just go dark. You want me to go on, or you want me to come back to you? No, Alderman Martin, yeah. You want me to go on, or you want me to? Okay. Well, don't let me forget to come back to that. Alderman Robertson on the amendment?
No.
Okay.
No, I've got something else.
Okay. So here's where we are, is that we're voting on what was provided to you just a little while ago. Hard copy was emailed to you with suggestions from Alderman Evans and Alderman Ward. We can change those if we pass this. We're still allowed to change any text if we pass this. So any other discussion on what we're voting on? Okay. Jason, you ready for us? Yes. Yes. Everything is in yellow. Okay. All those in favor, press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. Okay, so that passes 10-3. Those voting against, Alderman Bergdorf, Skidmore, and Martin. Those voting in favor, Alderman Ward, Sassy, Garza, myself, Alderman Dixon, Goodwin, Garten, Collins, Robertson, and Evans. I'm going to go to Alderman Robertson now. Thank you, Jason.
Mayor. Lance, I have some questions for you.
Yes, sir.
I know that we have been trying to get authorization to register rental properties, and we've had to go to the legislature for that specific authority. So I want to make sure, because I can see possible lawsuits in this as we move forward, I want to make sure that we're on solid legal ground. Is it your opinion that we have statutory authority to promulgate this chapter?
So with regard to the registration of the landlords, there's a preemption statute for under the Uniform Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. Preemption meaning that nothing can be changed or added to that particular act, the Landlord and Tenant Act. There's not a preemption statute with regard to this, and so long as this would be interpreted to fall under the city's police powers and regulatory powers for protecting the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, then that would be the city's authority under that. Would it be on more solid legal ground if it was more weighted to blighted and deteriorated buildings? I think that it would.
Say that again. Say that again.
If this was more weighted toward blighted and deteriorated buildings, I think it would be on much better legal ground. And I'm not real comfortable with the definition of vacancy in it. So I'm not sure that we can correct that today, unless y'all let me go in my office for a little bit and come back. But
Yeah, I've been involved in a lot of rules at the state, administrative rules at the state.
Yes,
and one of the requirements, we always had to cite statutory authority.
yes.
So that's why I asked the question. And I think what you're saying is that we would be on more solid ground if we approached abandoned property than vacated property.
Abandoned, blighted, deteriorated, and put some definitions to it and some examples. But some statutes have preemption where we cannot add to it, such as the one for the landlord registration. There isn't a preemption statute for this.
Yes.
But it does need to have a purpose for the general health, safety, and welfare of the public.
I think that's a threshold question.
Yes, sir.
That we needed to hear from you.
Okay.
I have, Mayor, and I've prepared this. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 amendments to this. 2 of them, I think, are just structural, that I think makes the rule more readable and better. I'll be glad to pass these out and let people look at them as I discuss them, if that's okay.
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Do you want to make them as a whole, or do you want to make them one at a time?
Well, let's talk about them.
Okay.
Let's talk about them.
What? I think most people here have heard you say that before. I appreciate that. Appreciate you asking. Thank you.
And I know I said 6, but this shouldn't take that long. I'm not going to be dilatory. Try not to be. And again, to kind of change the phrase of Mark Anthony in the play Caesar, I come not to praise Caesar, but to bury Caesar. Well, I come not to destroy this rule. I come to improve it because I do think it's important and I support the concept, but I want us to get it right. So if you look at what I've passed out, I believe that active marketing is an important term that needs to be included in the definitions. I understand that that definition is included in the text, but I think that that's an important enough item that, Lance, it should be in the definitions. Also, and that's on page 78, by the way, your packet. On registration, I believe that we need to add a 10th bullet point, and that's compliance with section, it'd be 1508, the inspection. The inspection is required, I think, as part of the registration process. And so I think that it needs to be up front that this is part of the registration process, that you have to meet with our staff, our fire department, our police, or whatever, and do an inspection of the property at the appropriate time. That's page 81. On page 81 as well, I would like to delete the reference to real estate agent or realtor. I understand the beauty of having more and more people to look at that and help, but I don't think a real estate agent is appropriate. I do think it's appropriate for a lending officer that is doing title research to be responsible for notification of the action here if there's back money paid. So I would like to delete real estate agent or realtor from E on 15-1505E.
So Alderman Robertson, I'm following along with this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you where these changes are in the new text that we just finished. I'll do that in just a minute. Go ahead, Alderman Robertson.
Okay. In 15-1506, that's the registration fees. Are we just copying what Jackson did on these registration fees? $500 for the first year and then $1,000 after that? Where did we come up with that regime? Under registration
That's a good question.
fees.
I don't think that these are the same fees from Jackson. I believe that this ordinance apparently had been in the works prior to me, and I believe I referenced the ones in I don't think they ever got to BOMA.
Okay.
And I believe that I referred to those.
Well, under the registration fees, again, since we are extracting money from property owners, I would like, if possible, Lance, if you could put some kind of statutory site in that area, if, to come up.
In what area was that?
The fees that we're collecting, and also the 50% surcharge for delinquent fees. If we could provide some kind of statutory authorization for that, if not, and Lance, let me ask you, will the city judge be enforcing this ordinance? So if someone objects, if someone refuses to pay, where do we go? What's the appeal process? I know that the Board of Zoning Appeals will have some appeal authority, but where's the actual judiciary involved in this enforcement?
It's see.
Because we're going to have companies that not pay it,
No, it wouldn't be under the jurisdiction of city court. there's a provision in here that would assess the fees, and then if the building were to sell or transfer, that it would require the escrow agent to, or whomever was in the process of, or transferring it, to hold back those funds, kind of like a lien.
Okay, okay. The next one is on page 82, and I would like to
Let me,
delete.
there are provisions in here, certain provisions that could be fined $50, that could go to city court.
Understood.
Some of it wouldn't be under the city
No,
court
because some of these
jurisdiction.
fines would be over $50.
Well, if they owe the fees, not the fines, but there are some fines that are referenced in here that would go to city court.
Okay.
Under 1510, for example.
Okay. On page 82, D3, I would like to delete the sentence, "In addition, comma, the listing sale or lease price must be legitimate based on comparable sales and lease rates of similar properties in the defined area." That seems a whole lot of government in my mind. It seems like that we're trying to regulate the price between a buyer and a seller. And so I just need somebody to explain why we need to get into the listing price, whether it's legitimate or not. I mean, is the city going to determine that somebody wanting to sell their property for a particular price is legitimate or not?
Go ahead.
That is in there to ensure that if a property is being marketed, that it's a legitimate marketing and not listed at, an exorbitant amount, just to comply with the ordinance, that it's actually marketed, kind of like an example, an arm's length transaction.
Right.
Or a bona fide transaction, that it's a bona fide lease price or sell price.
What if we determine it's not?
Then it wouldn't be in compliance. Then it's not being actively marketed, and therefore it wouldn't qualify for being waived for a year.
Alderman Robertson, I've had a hard time with that sentence as well.
Yeah, I think we're getting into some real tricky areas here about trying to regulate whether a list price is legitimate or not. So I would like to delete that sentence.
And I'm just explaining it. I'm not saying that it should be in there or shouldn't be in there.
I understand. I understand. And then the last thing on page 83, this is 15-1507, vacant building plan. And that would be to insert after the word plan in the first sentence as part of the registration process in 15-1505. I just want to make sure that when people are reading this, that the building plan is part of the registration process.
Can you explain that again, Alderman Robertson? Sorry, I lost you.
Yeah, page 83. The vacant building plan.
Okay.
And well, let me ask Keith a question. A vacant building plan, when is that required? At registration?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank y'all. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Y'all getting too loud down there.
Jamie, I am at that age, Mom.
Okay, we'll go back to Alderman Robertson.
Did everyone understand what I'm trying to do on the vacant building plan to insert that this is part of the registration process?
So, help me,
just-
so it's under 12-1507,
A,
1507A.
right after the vacant building plan, comma, as part of the registration process in, what, it says 12, but I think the new is 15-1505. So I just want the person that reads this to understand, well, hey, the vacant building plan is part of the registration process.
It goes right.
It's just, I think it reads better, more understandable. Unless the staff has any issues with that.
That's on page 83.
Okay.
No, I think that's a very good idea, because it would be, when you're registering, you're paying your registration fee, and you're providing a plan for one of those three things of what you're gonna do: demolition, rehabilitation, or whatever that other thing was on there, so.
And Keith, while I've got you, one last question. On the enactment schedule on this ordinance, it says, I think, the very last page.
This is in there. He just says it's.
Your staff will be implementing this, is that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Good luck to you.
Happy to serve.
It says, this ordinance shall take effect at the earliest date allowed by law. Do you need some time to develop the registration process and to, I mean, the way this reads, I think, is that, you know, it goes into effect after second reading.
Yeah.
So-
It'd be okay. Whatever we've got to do to put it together.
Okay.
We'll figure it out fairly quickly, and have all those forms and everything.
Okay.
But I don't know that this would be something just right out of the gate, like right when it's done, that we're gonna have to kind of look and see what buildings that we already know have been vacant for more than a year, and then how we're going to be able to document that that's been the case. And then start pursuing.
And you
pursuing
can
that.
do this with current staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see this.
Okay.
You know, if BOMA goes this direction with this, as far as from a staffing standpoint, I don't think it's gonna be an issue, because there's not a lot of buildings that are gonna meet this requirement. And I think that's part of this, whether it's this tool or you're using, you know, pumping up an existing tool that we have in the International Property Maintenance Code to enforce these things. This is mostly things that, so that they don't happen. You know, we don't have really an over proliferation of these types of activities, but having some tool, whatever that tool would be, to address those things as they do pop up, if that makes sense. I don't see this being a lot of properties.
So Mayor, I don't know how you want to proceed. I don't know if you want me to go through each individual and have a vote on each of them, because there may be some that some members may not vote for. So I take instruction from you.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna go through each of them. I'm gonna sort of look for people that have quizzical looks or nodding their head yes or no, and that should give us some help. But most of us are already looking on the amendment that was passed earlier.
Right.
That came from Alderman Evans and Alderman Ward, that has the yellow highlighted, that was emailed earlier today and passed out just a little while ago. So if you look on that, I'm gonna tell you what Alderman Robertson is making a motion for, instead of the text that's actually in your binder. So if you pick up what has highlights, and Lance, I'm gonna need your help here. So first page says ordinance 2025-08. Go to the second page, at the top says chapter 15. Alderman Robertson wants to add in a definition of active marketing. That definition comes from
15-1506 D3.
15-1506 D3. You see there in that paragraph, 15-1506 D3, 3 lines down after the 3 in parentheses, actively marketing shall be defined as placement of a for sale or for lease sign of the property with accurate contact information, which is provided to the planning department, which may also include listing of the building by the owner, owner's agent, or with a licensed state of Tennessee realtor to the multiple listing service with name, address, telephone number, email address of the realtor provided to the planning department. That's what Alderman Robertson is asking us to move. He thinks that that should go under definitions. So that's his first suggestion. His second one is go to 12-1505, and that finishes with 9 points there. And his 10th one, Alderman Robertson, do you want to tell us what your 10th one is?
Yes, it would be compliance with section 12-1508, inspection.
Okay. His next one would be paragraph E, just a couple lines below that.
Right.
Cross out real estate agent and realtor.
Right.
That's his next suggestion. Now turn one page over to back to that paragraph 3, and we are deleting the sentence right in the middle of it. So now, see, at the top of that page says annual registration renewal fees, and it's got four fees there. Go down almost to the bottom of that, paragraph 3, and Alderman Robertson has asked us to delete the sentence in the middle of that paragraph that says, in addition, the listing, sale, or lease price must be legitimate based on comparable sales and lease rates of similar properties in the surrounding areas. He's asking to remove that. He also asked that we cite statutory authority, but I'm going to leave that for after this meeting.
Okay.
And then his last suggested change is going to 12-1507, turn over one page from where you are, and you'll see upper part of that page, 12-section 1507, and he is asking in paragraph A, where do we put that, Alderman Robertson?
Where it said, shall submit a vacant building plan, comma,
Okay,
as part of the registration process in 12-1505.
and then comma, and it will go on to say, shall be selected from include, am I correct about that?
Yes,
Okay, okay.
yes.
That's a lot to throw at you. So it's 5 changes. One change we're going to put off till later on, where we cite statutory authority. Just give me a look and tell me if we need to deal with these individually, or if y'all want to discuss all 5 of those together. It seems like you're all okay together? Okay. So what we right now need to address is those 5 suggestions from Alderman Robertson, but first I need a second. Does somebody want to give me a second on that? What was that? Okay, Alderman Goodwin, thank you. Okay, Alderman Dixon, sorry. And so we are going to discuss those 5 changes only right now. Okay. Alderman Sassy, those changes? Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
You with us?
I appreciate what we're doing here, that we're trying, we've got a plan, but there's a focus on what we're trying to do, but we're trying to do it right. We're trying to make it so it makes sense for the city, but it also makes sense legally, and a legal standpoint, and it also makes sense for the commercial building owners. But I gotta be honest with you, it's getting a little confusing, and we're not given a whole lot of time to really review all these changes and review everything. I mean, I was just handed this whole thing today. I haven't had a chance to look at all the yellows yet. Been trying to, but lots being thrown at us right now on this, and I just don't think it's ready. Let me think about that. I want to confer the rest of my time to Alderman Skidmore.
Well, we go to him regardless of if you do that or not. So, Alderman Skidmore.
All right, thank you, my distinguished colleague from Ward 3. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you.
And thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me. I'm too like Alderman Sassy, and I think I'm probably, to be honest with you, whether we want to admit to it or not, I'll admit to it. With regards to this ordinance, I'm not going to say that it's a bad ordinance, because it's not. I think Hendersonville's ready for it. But I don't think this board is ready for it. And that's not a slap at us, but because we've had so many changes tonight. We've had probably 4 or 5 aldermen, my colleagues that I work with, that have had some very good amendments to this ordinance. And I appreciate Mayor Clary bringing it for us, because I think it's something that's needed in Hendersonville. But what I would like us to do, if it's okay, is there's been so many amendments to this ordinance that actually my personal feeling is that it no longer really reflects the ordinance that's in our book this evening. And what I would like to do is, after everybody gets through their amendments, if it could be either referred back to General Committee or put off for a meeting to let us see what the actual new ordinance will be, and we don't have to vote on it tonight, because I feel uncomfortable by putting all these amendments and changing the ordinance from what I would consider what we received tonight, completely different ordinance, and then we will vote on that either in 2 weeks, or if it's still not ready in 2 weeks, when it is completed with all the amendments that need to be on there, that each alderman can review the ordinance, the new ordinance that we have. So what I would like to, so my point in all that is real simple. Put all the amendments that everybody feels comfortable in, and then once that's done, refer it back to General Committee. If I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I would feel comfortable with that, because then when you get it again, you get a fresh new ordinance in 2 weeks, or how many weeks it takes to get it done right, and then you can look at it again and keep this ordinance, and then you can compare and contrast to each one if you have an opinion one way or the other. So that's my feeling, Mayor, that once all the amendments are completed and no one has any more amendments to do it, I would like to refer it back to General.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Alderman Bergdorf, on the amendment.
Yes, thank you very much. There's a lot in here. There's a lot of the amendments here, just as my colleague noted. It is very confusing at this point. There's a lot of new addition information, a lot of removed information, and it sounds very similar, what we're trying to do, to the code we just passed, which is the Ordinance 2025-5, the Property Maintenance Code. There's a section in it referring to Section 113.1, General Code. There's a lot of information in here already, and I'd just like to see how our ordinance would buddy up with that once it's finished. But I agree with our colleague over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bergdorf. Alderman Collins, on the amendment?
I do have one comment on the amendment, and then after we're done with that, I would like to ask some questions.
Okay.
For Director Free and also for Lance. But my question or comment on the amendment is, one of the first things I learned after receiving this ordinance is that commercial realtors do not use MLS except for on land. If there's a building, they're not required to use MLS, and they don't generally. I don't know how they list it, because I'm not a realtor, let alone a commercial realtor, but MLS is not. We just need to delete that.
I appreciate Alderman Collins. Did you want questions for Alderman, or for Mr. Free? Or should we
Oh, we should vote on the amendment.
I think that's a great idea. Okay. Does anybody need the amendment restated? Okay. So we have a motion from Alderman Robertson and a second from Alderman Dixon. Okay? Okay. Any other discussion? Jason, ready for us? Okay. All those in favor, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red. Okay. So that passes 7-6. Those voting against, Alderman Bergdorf, Skidmore, Ward, and Martin, Collins, and Evans. Those voting in favor, myself. Alderman Sassy, Garza, Dixon, Goodwin, Garton, and Robertson. Alderman Collins, why don't we come back to you? I do have an amendment that I'd like to make before we put this off, and there might be, you sure? Okay. I think this is pretty simple. So still looking at the yellow line version that was emailed to you earlier. Look please on the second page where it says authorized agent. Third line, to be responsible for the security and maintenance of the building and property, who shall have access to the building and property, and who shall be available, I'd like to cross out at all times, who shall be available during business hours and during non-business hours in the case that an emergency occurs requiring immediate response and/or to make repairs within 48 hours. So I've crossed out a couple spots, but I think that's accomplishing really what we want to accomplish at the same time it's being fair. We can't expect somebody to be on premises at all times to respond to emergency, which basically means that 24/7, somebody would have to be at that property. I don't think that's reasonable. So this addresses that still somebody will be responsible, but we're going to give some time to actually show up for non-emergencies. I'm going to make that motion. I hope we get a second. And a second from Alderman Garza. Do y'all need any more discussion on that? Any more clarification on that? Okay, I'm going to read again what it will now say. Authorized agent, a person who shall be authorized in writing by the owner or person's control of a vacant commercial industrial building to be responsible for the security and maintenance of the building and property, who shall have access to the building and property, and who shall be available during business hours and during non-business hours in the case that an emergency occurs requiring immediate response and/or to make repairs within 48 hours. Good. Alderman Sassy, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I still don't think that addresses the issue I had mentioned.
It may not, and you're welcome to make a motion afterward or work on it next couple weeks.
So we can still tweak that after. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay. Jason, ready for us? All those in favor, please press your green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you. We had a couple people that had buttons to talk about items other than the agenda. I'm going to go to Alderman Collins first, just because she's the only one I really remember at this point. Mr. Free, can you answer some questions that she might have?
Yes, ma'am. Director Free, do we have anything in our codes that we just adopted or otherwise that deters against repeated vandalism?
Not necessarily repeated vandalism, but the results of the vandalism could result in a property maintenance violation.
And is there anything in this ordinance that deters repeated vandalism? That's something the mayor brought up earlier.
Do you mean the act of vandalism or the result of vandalism? Like the criminal act of it?
Well, the mayor, the way that he phrased it made me think that I was really missing something, because he said, what do we have that, how would something else deter against repeated vandalism? And I didn't understand that comment, so I thought there might be something in here that I didn't understand.
Now, that would be the International Property Maintenance Code.
Okay.
That could address those specific issues. I think this specific, the original ordinance, as I understood it, is really about mostly about vacancy.
Okay.
And abandoned.
I also wanted to ask you if the codes, given what we've just adopted, what condition would a building be in before we could condemn and demolish it legally?
Yeah. Do you want me to answer it?
It would need to be declared a nuisance, uninhabitable, but basically there's statutory authority and city authority if it's a nuisance.
So what, like, I'm reluctant to use a specific example, but let's say a tornado blew off the back of a building.
Right.
Could we condemn and demolish that building legally? Do we have the authority to do that?
At some point in time, but we can't just go demolish it. We would need to.
There's a process.
Yes, ma'am.
Including compensation?
Compensation to demolish it?
It's for.
We would be reimbursed our expenses?
Right.
Yeah, you'd go through the process on that. For example, is, hey, you got the back of your building off, you need to fix that, or you're going to be cited for that, and then probably that would be the first step, and then there would be a citation, and if it still wasn't resolved, then it was, declared a nuisance and an obvious danger, then the city could take action to, it's called abate the nuisance. So they could abate it, which is basically tear it down, and then take that cost. The city would have to have the money to take care of that cost of demolishing, and then the city could file a lien on the property for that. Sort of similar like what we do with grass, like tall grass that we mow in the city. We do the same thing, but it just would be with the building.
It would be a much larger price tag than mowing somebody's grass.
Yes.
I completely understand that. At some point in time, we would be reimbursed for that upon sale of the property or what have you.
Possibly, I'm not for sure how the law,
Okay.
how the lien position works. I don't know what our lien position would be if there's other liens already on the property, if we would go to the first position or if we're fifth position, so.
But I just want to clarify, we currently have the authority to take those actions with a due process. The
Yes.
timetables need to be observed, but at some point, we could condemn and demolish, for example, a building that had no back.
Yes.
Okay.
And part of all of that is we really haven't had a lot of those issues, and we're faced with some of those issues now. So we really haven't had that bar set as to at what point do we go that far into it and actually take somebody's building down. We just haven't really gotten to that point, but we're at a point where we have enough older commercial property specifically, it could even be residential property, but enough older property that we're going to be faced with that decision, which, it's more than just the money. Definitely budgeting the money to have money so that we can abate things, but then also, exactly what is it we want to do? Where is that line we want to draw on how far we want to go? But there's nothing wrong with going that far. It's just, I guess, as a community, we really haven't done that on a regular basis throughout the years. It just hasn't occurred.
It feels really a big government. It feels like a really big flex of the authority that we have to do that. And so for me, absorbing all the information from tonight, a part of my thinking moving forward is which feels bigger to me, having somebody pay fees at this level, or taking the 2 or 3 buildings that are a problem and gaining control of those. I appreciate you clarifying that for me. I just wanted to make sure that what I was being told was accurate. And then I have some questions for Mr. Ray.
Hey, Alderman Collins, can I clarify something you asked Mr. Free about? About the vandalism. The reason I asked about that is because currently we have vandalism at properties. Very often, we have a hard time contacting somebody about that vandalism and that it has been continuing. And very often, we're not able to cite anybody because we didn't catch the people who did it. So what this will allow us to do is, this will allow us to have a contact name before it happens. And so then when it does happen, we can get a hold of somebody and let them know that, hey, you need to pay better attention to this. So that was my point there, is that we don't really have that in place right now because very often we don't have a person's name and a contact number. This will help us with that. This will provide that.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, go ahead. You had some questions, Ms. Ray?
I do. Well, I want to know if we had an appeals process and if we issued notifications. I know that you have concerns about how this is applying to vacant, and you would be more comfortable from a legal position if we distinguish between vacant and abandoned, and I am on board with that. But I want to know if having an appeals process and issuing notifications to buildings that we presume to be 50% or more vacant would increase your level of comfort with the legality.
As it is right now? As it's written right now?
Yes, let's say that.
I mean, I think any type of enforcement would require due process and notice, and due process being part of the appeal, and that's in here. There's it goes into detail about the notices and how it's sent and what the form is, and there is an appeal process to the BZA, which there's an appeal process after that to Chancery Court. I would not feel comfortable with this without that, if that's what you're asking.
Pen, start writing. Okay, I did want to say that in the last couple of weeks, well, first of all, I want to say that when I read this ordinance initially, I knew what I wanted it to say, and I experienced confirmation bias because I had goals in mind for this ordinance. And so when I read it, magically it fulfilled my goals. And then I have learned since then that there are a lot of unintended consequences, at least I did not intend, because people have contacted me and said, this particular building, this building that I own, this building that my friend owns, have you thought about this particular building? They would all fall under vacant, and not my intention. Again, I don't want to do specific examples in this format, but I think that the way this is written now, we're painting with too broad a brush, and we need to really narrow down our definitions. And I think the way to get there is to make a distinction between vacant and abandoned. And I think there can be value in identifying buildings that are vacant. As Chief Bush pointed out in our general committee meeting, if we know a building is vacant and it is on fire, we do not need to send our people into that building. So just having a list, and then I followed up with both chiefs, and they said the only information they would really need is there an active alarm system and what utilities are being provided to that building. I also think that there may be a need for inspections. I have not talked to Director Free or Director Story about that yet. And I also would want to talk to our fire marshal and see if they think that there's a need for maybe some inspection needs to happen every 3 years and maybe some other one needs to happen every 5 years. I don't know, because I don't have, that is not my occupation. So I need to learn that, and I didn't come here prepared to make an amendment because I really need to reflect I really need to put in some legwork and talk with various stakeholders and try to narrow down how one would define vacant versus how one would define abandoned. And in my mind, those categories would have different fee structures. The other thing that's a concern for me is, let's take, for example, a shopping center, an entire strip mall located next to Ace Hardware that is an abandoned building. And let's compare that to one of our smaller, used to be a residential home and is zoned commercial, that's maybe less than 1,000 square feet. Should their fine really be the same? I mean, fee. We're not calling it a fine because it's not punitive. Should their fee for this registration really be the same? No. And I think that making it $1 amount fits all is not friendly to small business. So I would like to see maybe a table that reflects square footage from here to here is $1 amount, and square footage from this range would be a separate dollar amount. And I would request that we not only send it back to committee as suggested earlier, but that we have a workshop so that we can, this is really important. It's a really big deal. And I know we all talk about the west end of town, but I actually have a large property with multiple structures that have been tarped since the tornado. 2 of them are supposed to be getting torn down in my ward. And so it is, and I have industrial on Avondale and Laverne in my ward. This is not exclusively a west side of town. The people on this end of the table, our wards are also impacted. And even if they weren't, this is a citywide. This is our whole community. This is a big deal, and I don't know that we are going to get this defined and get this in such a way that we have a laser focus and get the buildings that we want and nothing else. But I know we can do better than what we have now, and I know it's worth taking the time and putting in the work to get it as close to right as we can. So I would really appreciate us having a workshop, coming up with a lot of revisions, in addition to these wonderful revisions that we've made tonight, and sending it back to committee and having a really robust conversation on this topic. And I know other people want to speak, so I'm not going to make that motion because that would end the conversation, but we can come back or somebody else can make the motion to defer. Thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Bergdorf.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I was, so again, we've all said, had very good concerns. We've raised very good questions, and we want to make this as clean as possible. One of my suggestions would be, is if it does go back to a committee, we have an ad hoc, maybe 3 of us on the board. We have a chairman, we have a vice chair, and then another individual. Do some real research on this and bring it back to the general committee so that all the questions that we have can be answered with the professionals. Those 3 individuals. It's just a suggestion. That way, they can steer this ordinance and build it, allow us to build it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bergdorf. Alderman Martin.
I just had a general question. I guess this is for Lance Ray. The state statute, if we create like a board similar to some of our other boards, we can apply the state remedies which includes eminent domain, or at least the threat of eminent domain to compel performance. Have you guys thought about not creating our own ordinance and just using the state law?
Are you talking about when it mentions the vacant
That's it.
building commission?
Yes.
I looked at that, I'm not sure that that applies to us, that we fall under that statute. The last subsection talks about application to certain counties according to population, according to the 2000 census, and we didn't fall into that, so I'm not sure that that would apply to us.
Instead of amalgamating all these kind of comments to create something that is a catch-all, it's one size fits all, which we're not going to get there, and I think that's why we're having some of the problems. Is would a subcommittee or a committee help us review on a case-by-case basis what to do and what not to do?
Yeah, that was a good question too, by the way, about that statute. That I looked into that, but yeah, I mean that would be helpful, and it would be more of a due process for property owners to have a commission.
Okay, just curious.
Alderman Martin, thank you. So here are the concerns that we're going to discuss. It might be at a workshop, it might be through a committee. Probably bring it to a workshop first, and we'll discuss we'll just sort of give me some idea then of what the next steps are. But here are those concerns. Talking about setting up some sort of commission, like Alderman Martin mentioned. We need to cite our statutory authority. Alderman Sassy mentioned the agent response, and that's in section 12-1501, defining or differentiating between vacant and abandoned, creating an appeal process for a building that has been declared vacant, and also graduated fees based on the square footage. That's on my list of items to discuss when we take this to a workshop. At this point, we've added a couple amendments, and we have nobody else wishing to speak on this. Alderman Collins or Alderman Skidmore, do you want to make a motion to defer? And probably the best thing would be to defer indefinitely, and then the sponsors can bring it back. I don't think our sponsors are myself, Alderman Collins, and Alderman Garza. Is that right? No?
Evans?
Evans, I'm sorry. And so I don't think anybody's bringing it back before we have some action at a committee level or a workshop. So Alderman Skidmore, would you like to make that motion?
Yes. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to make that motion that we should defer indefinitely this ordinance until it goes through
workshop.
The workshop, and then after the workshop, it goes through committee, and then everybody has a chance to really kind of look at it. And if they come back with, after we've talked about it at length, I mean, I know we've talked about it a lot tonight, but we'll talk some more about it at workshop. So that's what my motion would say.
Okay.
Second.
Alderman Collins makes a second. Any discussion on this? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you all for work on that. Next, we have 11 appointments. This is the appointment of Robert Bertotti to Lakeshore Committee, Jeremy Hatcher to Lakeshore Committee. Jeremy's here. Angela Holmes to Lakeshore Committee, Alan Phillips to Lakeshore Committee, James Peterson to Lakeshore Committee, Renee Shepard to the Arts Council, William Clifford to the Arts Council, Mike Pike, Hendersonville Parks Board, Thomas Golden, Hendersonville Parks Board, Milan Hellman to the Hendersonville Parks Board, and Joe Rather to the Hendersonville Parks Board. Do I have a motion? We have a motion from Alderman Martin and a second from Alderman Dixon. Let's go to Alderman Martin. Go ahead.
There's some confusion on the local internet groups on Facebook about what the Hendersonville Lakeshore Committee is. And so I was just going to see if you could articulate that for anybody watching that wanted to know.
I'm going to ask Alderman Dixon to do that.
Sure. And I appreciate that. And I did answer back everybody that I could today in private message that had any questions about it.
By the way, if somebody has a question about City Hall and something's on the agenda, the best source to get an answer is probably to email the staff or email an alderman.
I think sometimes posting somewhere will not get you the best and the most correct answer. Alderman Dixon, go ahead.
Well, I didn't post about, but
I
you're
know,
saying
yeah,
that for the public.
yeah,
Okay, got
yeah.
it. That's why I did private messaging. But all of us were giving the resolution 2025-06. We voted on this twice back in February, so every one of us received the staff report out that says what I'm about to say. The background on this committee is that the Lakeshore Committee was created by ordinance with the responsibility of studying issues relative to and affecting Old Hickory Lake and its shoreline within the city's corporate limits for the purposes including but not limited to the following: to provide continuing input to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and pertinent city officials on issues pertaining to and affecting Hendersonville's shoreline and lake. To help, to help the Hendersonville community connect with current issues and the long-term vision for Old Hickory Lake while balancing environmental protections, private property rights, and recreational use of the lake and the shoreline. So that is what we are attempting to achieve by this. And a lot of people are ready and willing to go to work on that.
Alderman Martin, anything else? Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that.
Of course. Thank you, Alderman Dixon. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just, really, you've answered my question. I appreciate the gentlelady from Ward 4 saying what you said, because I was going to ask those questions that my colleague from Ward 2 eloquently asked, and I just appreciate that. And I will leave it at that, because of the storms that we had this past week, unfortunately, I was out in it, looking and trying to help folks and looking at the damage and everything. And I was asked that, believe it or not, in the backyard of one on Cumberland Shores Drive. And so I kind of told him, and I go, I didn't answer your question, did I? Because he was looking at me. He goes, no, you didn't. And so I said, okay, well, I'll get right back to it. But you've answered that, and I appreciate you doing that. And I thank the question that was asked. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Alderman Evans.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I meant to do this earlier tonight. I wanted to thank our team, our city team, for the work this weekend. I know that a lot of them worked a lot of long hours, and I really do appreciate all of our teams. And that's, I felt, I don't want to even say any of the teams, if that's our city as a whole, for everybody. Thank you. To this point here, and I want you to know that I don't really know most of these people that are being appointed, and I'm thankful that they're coming forward and would like to serve in this capacity. But I had a couple of concerns about this, and just something for us to think about. We redrew the lines of the wards probably, 3 years ago. And I think that there may be some unintended consequences of some people who have been on the boards where they've changed from one ward to another ward. And I want you to think about this. So I'm just going to point to the Lakeshore Committee. And I know that the way it was written about the committee is that it was intended to really focus on having people on that committee who live along the lake. Although one could make an argument that anybody who lives in Hendersonville, in any ward, does use the lake. I could make a case for other people, but I'll leave it at that. But when you look at the ones that we're voting on tonight, and I know that 5 of these are being presented to us to vote on, and then Mayor, I think you have another 4 that you will appoint. All of these 5 live in either wards 1 or 4, but yet the lake touches wards 1, 2, 4, and 5. And there's not anybody from 2 or 5. So I'd just like to, before we vote on this, I'd just like to have assurances, Mayor, that you will consider someone, at least one, from each of the wards that are on the lake as a part of that, rather than just having and I know that was not the intent, but just having everybody from wards 1 and 4.
So I'll go further than that, not only looking at some diversity in wards, but also diversity of interest. Is one of the things that Alderman Dixon and I have talked about is, do these people live, is their interest more in the creek or more in the channel? As well as, are they more
and also voters. So we're looking at diversity as people can
Good.
represent several areas, so several interests, I should say.
And I get it that sometimes it's hard to get people to commit to a committee, so just wanted to point that out.
Yep. Thank you, Alderman Evans. Yes, that was on top of mind while this was being created, this list. And if the mayor doesn't mind, I will go ahead and include his numbers and share with how many's in what ward.
Oh, great, okay.
We have 4 from Ward 1, 4 from Ward 4, and 1 from Ward 2. And I did give everyone a chance to, give me nominations, and I did receive nominations as well. So
Okay, great.
a lot of folks who were recommended did not, after they heard that they didn't really have a time commitment that they wanted to make on
Okay.
it. So,
Thank you.
but I think that's fairly diverse, and we may see some change. And if we do that, we will absolutely still consider that.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate that, Alderman Evans. Appreciate that, Alderman Dixon. Any other questions on these? Any other questions or comments about these appointments? You got a motion to second? We're talking about all of them, all
Okay,
11 of them.
I do have.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I don't have a concern about the Hendersonville Art Council. I did go back and look at that, and there is a representation from all the wards on the Art Council, so I'm good with that one. On the Hendersonville Parks Board, and again, I know a couple of these people, but we have 9 members currently that are on that, and there's representation from each ward, as I mentioned. There are 3 that are from Ward 4, which represents 1/3 of the board. And when you step back and you look at where the parks are in our city, in Ward 1, there's Sanders Park, and there's 2 members from Ward 1. In Ward 2, you have the Drakes Creek Park, which is, quite frankly, our largest used park, and you have Memorial Park, but yet there's only 1 member on the Parks Board. Ward 3, I didn't show that there were any parks, and we have 1 member there. Ward 4, we don't have a park operational yet, but that's where Heritage Park is going to be, and we have 3 members from that ward. Ward 5, you could say we have a park, that's Country Hills Golf Course. We have 1 member there. And then Ward 6, you have the Arrowhead Park, you have the Rugby Park, you have Veterans Park, and then we have the Greenway that basically is in Ward 6, but yet we only have 1 person there on the board. So I'm just bringing this up, and I want us to be cognizant of that when we're looking at our boards. And I know that it's our responsibility as aldermen to make sure that we have representation from our ward on these committees and these boards. But I'd like to I don't know. I don't want to take somebody off the board, but when we're looking to replace these, we certainly should consider other people in other wards, especially when there's wards that have a predominant footprint with the Parks Department. Thank you.
So I appreciate that, Alderman Evans. So we have 1 appointment from each ward, and then the mayor has 3 appointments. All of those have to go to the board to be approved. I look at my 3 appointments as a way to fill some gaps, especially in terms of recreational experience. Not so much, and this is my fault, not so much to make sure they spread out among wards, but make sure they can bring something to the Parks Board that maybe the Parks Board doesn't have perspective on. And Milan Hellman, to me, is a great example. Milan's the person you see running on Galveston Road with a smile on her face. She is that big of a runner, and she understands our greenways, she understands the running events, she understands the special events, and that's one of the reasons that I put her on there. And so I'm not always looking for to spread it out among wards as I am to spread it out among the different recreational activities they've been involved with. Yeah, I can probably do a better job spreading out from wards, but I appreciate what you said, that you're not looking to take anybody off, but that's something to consider down the road. Alderman Dixon, did you want to address that too?
Yes,
okay.
I do, and I appreciate your comments, Alderman Evans, I do. But when I look at the Parks Board and what they do, I have to step back and go, it's really not a ward thing, it's a park thing. If you're using our parks, if your children grew up in the parks, if you were on a particular board for a soccer or football or whatever, I understand when you start looking at representation by ward, But I think that the Parks Board is unique in that it's what you bring to the board, as the mayor said. So that's what I'll say. But I do like keeping that in our minds.
Thank you, Alderman Dixon. Alderman Evans, go ahead.
So I'll just follow up that. I appreciate that as well. But I tend to think differently about that. I get what you're saying about, because there's a lot of different sports that we offer in the city, and there's a lot of different people that could be, but I have to also look at this one. This is probably one of those boards where there's a lot of people who would like to be on the board and would like to have that opportunity. And I know there's something to be said about having people on the board that kind of, that continuity. But I think also when you look at, and maybe I'm being selfish, but I'm looking at Ward 6 and the fact that we do have a lot of park space in Ward 6. We do need representation of people who live in Ward 6, not just using those because they're there, they live it, they drive by it, they know what's going on, and they can add to the value of being on the board. So I think there's a little bit of, we have to consider that when we're looking at people, not just on the Parks Board, but for all of our boards, that we do have a fair and equitable representation on the boards.
I appreciate it. And Alderman Evans, I'll add one more thing. Ward 6 probably has more people involved in our parks than any other ward, I would bet, just because the age of most of the families in Ward 6. So yeah, I appreciate that. Okay. Are y'all ready to vote? So we've got 11 appointments. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of those appointments, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we're on to brief committee reports. Chairman Garza, General Committee.
Yes, we met tonight. We only had one resolution, 2025-14, which is the resolution authorizing you, Mr. Mayor, to sign a release of deed restrictions relative to the Bradford Berry property, and we recommended that go.
With Lance's help, right?
Yes.
Okay, good to hear. Okay.
That was us. That was it for General.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Chairman Goodwin. I appreciate that. And next, our Planning Commission, Alderman Martin. Here we go.
So, we had a good meeting last week. We only had one site plan come up for review. This is the Valvoline gas station, or Valvoline oil station at 258 East Main Street. The site is located between the Pinnacle Bank and the future Jim and Nick's. It is owned general commercial plan development. All surrounding property has the same zoning. The proposed use is an oil change facility, which is an allowed use as a part of that plan development. They asked for a waiver on the overhead service doors that were facing the street. We granted it to them because of the landscape buffer and wall in front of it. So that project was approved. Staff level projects pending, Caudill Estates, Ferguson Acres, Forest Retreat Subdivision, Hendersonville Football Stadium, and Millstone Phase 7. Planning Director comments from Keith Free. We lost Grant Green, and so we have offers out for senior planner roles. So hopefully we'll have that position filled soon. Also, Assistant Director Timothy Witten has been awarded the City of Hendersonville Employee of the Month, so congratulations to him. And we had our election of officers. Jeff Coker stepped down, and so Tim Altizer was elected to serve as the new chairman. Wendy Slatery will serve as the vice chairman. Vanessa Silkwood will be the secretary, and Charles Hasty was elected to be the vice secretary. So that concludes my report.
Alderman Martin, thank you. Jesse, our Bowman report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Board of Mayor and Aldermen. State of the City is this Friday, April 11th at 7:30 a.m. Birdie Bros. So look forward to seeing everyone there. I just wanted to give a quick update on the storm. Fortunately, we did not have real significant impacts. Our parks are flooded, trees are down, but no major incident. When this started, NES had over 60,000 customers without power. They worked around the clock, and as of last night, they had only 500 customers without power. Over 60 poles were broken, and the majority of those have already been repaired or replaced. So Parks and Public Works will be busy cleaning up the debris. The additional work for our limb crew, because they will be out now collecting their routes, plus the storm, all the cleanup from the storm, so just be patient with our limb crew. And then while Parks wasn't hit especially hard, they were still recovering from the previous storms that they had in the parks. And Mayor Clary presented them the Cal Ripken Award about a year ago for resiliency, so they continue to have opportunities to show their resiliency. So when you see a Parks employee, just encourage them. I mean, it seems like we don't get past one storm and we have another one. So they're doing a good job to clean that up. And on the back end of that, finance gets involved as well, because finance does all the paperwork for FEMA reimbursement. So it starts with police and fire and parks and public works and then finance. So it takes really a lot of people to get through these storm events. You know, we were actually happy to work through the weekend and not have a tornado touchdown, because we were all thankful that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So we were happy to work and not have major incidences, but just especially for the parks guys, you know, it's just encourage them if you see them. For paving in April, probably going to do about another 5 lane miles in April. We have a lot of rain events in April, so that might slow it down, but paving is back in because of the weather, so we expect to do about 5 miles in April. If we go to the BOMA report, page 105, you can see sales tax is up about $73,000 over February of last year, and we're up about $865,000 year over year. If you go to page 106, you'll see the general fund operating expenditures are up significantly in February, but only 1% for the year. We don't have really an even burn of expenditures month to month, but only 1% over last year is pretty good as far as expenditures go. Pages 107 and 108, that's all the updates to our half-cent sales tax fund, which we call our PIP fund. Page 109, we have calls for service for both our fire and police, and that remains on trend with previous years. And just a reminder, you'll see that increase in police calls, but that's because we are now reporting our self-initiated calls. And then page 110, we do show an increase of LPR hits. Those are the license plate reader cameras. And we're probably going to continue to see this increase, because what Chief Jones is putting in that data now is not only when we get blue lights on a stolen vehicle, but every time those license plates help us solve a crime. So if we can see a license plate that we can tie to a crime and solve a crime, we're going to have that information there too. So it shows the effectiveness of those LPR cameras. So you'll continue to probably see that number tick up more than it was in the past. Page 113 and 114 is all of our upcoming park events. Of special note is we have the Special Needs Egg Hunt at Mary's Magical Place, April 10th. And then I think probably the world's largest egg hunt, which First Baptist puts on at Saunders Ferry Park. If you haven't been there, you can see, seems like thousands of kids run out and grab thousands and thousands of eggs. If you go to page 115, you can see that our stormwater projects are nearing 100% completion for the 23 that we budgeted this year. And the difference in the amount of calls that we get at City Hall compared to 3 or 4 years ago when we had a storms event is significant. Just because of all the proactive work and all the projects and the amount of funding that we've been able to put towards it, there is a significant difference when we have these storm events as compared to several years ago. So Sarah and Trace and those guys have done a really good job with keeping on track. And then Casey's going to give us an update on an event at Hendersonville High School.
Thanks, Jesse. So on Friday, our fire department and our police department, in collaboration with TriStar Medical Center, they're going to be doing a mock DUI event in the field on the Cherokee Road side of the high school. And so this is going to include a pretty heavy first responder presence, as well as a medevac helicopter coming in from somewhere to kind of give a really good demo to these kids about the importance of not drinking and driving. So as a city, we're going to work on some communications, because we know anytime that happens at a school, we don't want there to be any panic. So we are going to do some door knocking to the homes around the school tomorrow afternoon with little flyers to make sure they know. We're going to do a code red text to kind of notify everybody what to expect, not to panic, to that peninsula as well. So hopefully catching people that have schools there. The schools have also been sending notices out to all the parents to let them know, hey, this is going to be going on there, nobody panic. And we'll probably put something out on our social media as well. But we just want you guys to know in case you hear things or you start seeing the rumor mill start circulating, asking questions on Facebook. Why is there a helicopter landing at the high school, or why are there all these police? It's just a drill. It's just a little demo educational thing that they're providing for the students. Just want to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a helicopter coming. Yeah, okay, all right. And fire will be there. I think, is there some extrication equipment you guys are going to be having shown out there? So that'll be pretty neat for the kids. So, but anytime a lot of first responders show up at a school, people can maybe panic. So we're trying to try and get the word out. It was, I think, Chief Bush's idea to make sure we get a lot of proactive word out there. So good idea on that. Jason, if you can pull up that email, thank you. This is just a update. If you have not signed up for the TDOT updates on Walton Ferry realignment, it's really good too. This just came out today. And in one of the sections, it talks about the upcoming 4 weeks. And I think of importance is that they're going to try to finish on the Walton Ferry side. They're going to try to finish the work that they were doing on the west side and then start working on the east side. So there are some utilities that still haven't moved their poles, which is holding up the project a little bit. But they're going to try to just focus on getting the west side done on Walton Ferry and then scooting over to the east side. So if you haven't signed up, you can email Casey or myself or any city staff. We can get you hooked up with these weekly or monthly updates that come from TDOT on their management of that project. That's good, Jason. Thank you. And then lastly, I just wanted to update everyone on the progress with the Bradford Berry property. We met with GE a couple weeks ago, and I'm just going to give you an update of where we're at from that. Their legal asked for a supplement to the Phase 2 report. That is in progress right now. They asked for a release of liability. That went to General Committee tonight. It passed unanimously, so that will come to BOMA, and that gives the mayor the ability to execute an agreement between the city and GE to remove those deed restrictions. They've asked for a survey of the property, so that's being scheduled with Public Works. And so it's still looking positive for the removal of the deed restrictions. There's just a few more hoops that they've asked us to jump through that we're working on. So that's an update with Bradford Berry. And
Hold on one second. Alderman Skidmore, do you have a question for Jesse?
Yes, I do. Thank you for your report this evening. It was very concise, and I appreciated the information you brought out. Just briefly, two things. One, we had a gentleman from 110, Daniel Smith, this evening that came to the board. If you could, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I'm sure you probably already know it. I guarantee that he's that good. I'll guarantee you. I'm putting you on the spot. You know his name?
Mr. Taylor.
Bingo. See, it's what I told y'all. He's our guy, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's the gentleman that one in question. If you would look at that, because I know that he spent a lot of money on that, on his grass and things right there, and you know, it's probably from the storm or something. But if you all could look at that before our Public Works meeting, I sure would appreciate that. And then also, I just want to say another a bit of thank you again for letting us, or letting the board know about that going on TDOT's, the website, about the update for Walton Ferry, because I had probably about four phone calls this past week saying what a really good job that they had been doing, and they, you know, because there's people watching it, you know, and you got to drive by it if you're going to work or coming home. You know, you can see them working out there, and it's much appreciated, and they're really, and I just let the board know they really are doing a good job at that, and let's just hopefully, you know, keep it up, and we have a dry summer and spring, you know, where they can work. But anyway, that's it, Mayor, and I thank you, and thank you again.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Alderman Robertson, do you have a question for our COO?
I do. Jesse, on page 115 of your report, the capital project right away, I see where Drake's Creek and Stop 30, we've got all of the appraisals, and we're working our way through purchasing that. During these past storms, Stop 30 and Drake's Creek was out at least 4 times because of flooding. And I'm sure Alderman Evans can echo this, that we're hearing a lot of concerns about when are we going to get something started to fix that low spot so that every time it rains hard, it floods. Can you give us an update so that we can take back to our constituents and give them the real good news?
So I think the good news is everyone is signed for the offer on the right-of-way acquisition. This is a project that is 100% grant funded, so it's a CMAQ grant, right? So it runs through the federal process, so you have to go through Uniform Act for appraisals and all that. No eminent domain issues out there. I think 7 of the 11 have closed of the actual properties that we've had to purchase a piece of or easements. There's 4 that are still remaining. They're working through mortgage releases, finalizing how much taxes we owe versus they owe. So those are getting closed out. Because it's a federal grant, they do projects, and it's like they break a project into phases. So you can't complete your design of your project until you know the right-of-way limits. So those right-of-way limits are established now. Design is ongoing, and the design should be will be much quicker than right-of-way acquisition. The state reviews our plans, so we will put as much pressure as we can on our consultant to get those plans done. They're already working on them, but the right-of-way phase is nearly complete, and that's the one that's really lengthy. So we've gotten through, I think, the major hurdle, and we're working on construction plans now.
Is that a local project, Mayor? Or
It's not, so a definition of local project, it does not
With
fit the local
TDOT.
project. No, it is not.
it is not? Okay, I
yeah.
thought we could. Okay, well, so what can we tell them we hope that construction begins by?
It'll probably take 6 months to complete the plans, which we are working on now. So, with the signal sync, we've taken a lot of time to get through the state's review on that. And so the state will have some review on this as well. We can follow up to try to get a more detailed timeline, but I think some of it's going to hinge on third-party state's review on it. We're going to push our team as quick as we can. Again, what I can say is we're through the major hurdle of right-of-way, and we're going to work towards completing design and then going to construction after that.
Maybe if Alderman Skidmore is in agreement, maybe we could talk about this at Public Works Committee, our next Public Works Committee meeting. Thank you. Thank you. I also want to thank Code Red. Really worked. I think Saturday night I got 8 alerts. I finally, folks, I shouldn't say this, I guess, I finally just turned my phone off. It was ringing so much, of bad weather. I also want to thank Chief Bush because we have had some people ask about sirens, and he did a very good recap of the pros and the cons of the tornado sirens, and I have shared that with a lot of people in Ward 6, and believe it or not, all of them agree with you. So I appreciate that. That resource has helped me in responding to people say, why don't we have sirens? And the fact is that Code Red is a better.
I didn't develop that, I communicated, so that was not all my information. That was information that we met with people and they provided.
Well, it was good information. It's satisfied. So anyway, I want to thank the staff for that as well. Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Dixon.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn from Alderman Dixon. We have a second from Alderman Garza. Yep. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you all for your work tonight. Have a good night.